Kathy, you come to us with experience, 4K. How would you be voting if you were voting on the board? Would you be voting for a Title I, or would you be suggesting that we skip the Title I and go whole hog?
Well, that's a tricky question.
That's a tricky question. I mean, there's a lot of good discussion on the table as far as money, budget. I think the title program is I think looking at where our needs are for the use of the title funds, at least at this point, I think it would be good to use them for the 4K because you're going to get the most back, I think, for those students who really need that. I think when you talk about a 4K program, I mean, 90% of the districts in the state of Wisconsin have 4K programs, so it's a little competitive in that market. I think the conversation is really about how do you make your 4K program a really quality program? Because I think there's a lot of 4K programs out there, but I think you would want to really look at what are you going to do that really meets the needs of those kids. Or the oral and, all of those early communication and pre-reading skills.
What we'll do is put it onto the agenda for our meeting. I'm not voting in favor of it. I'm not planning on voting in favor of it. I think we have baby steps to do before we even think about a K-4 program, even the Title I. And I really want to see identification of what students we have, somehow identifying who are these students and how do we get in touch with them. And then secondly, what are our requirements to get, what should parents be working on before the students ever step foot in the classroom? I think those are steps that you take before you do anything else. If your concern is that we're getting these students too late, well, why not get them at 2 years old and 3 years old to say, parents, here's things that you could work with your child on.
In my mind, I think, parents are great teachers, and I worked hard with both of my daughters who came to Evergreen. But also, I know that teachers have a way of tapping into a student to their learning style. For example, my daughter, before she came to kindergarten, I could get her to do letters and sounds, but I had to run next to her on her bike. But when she went to kindergarten, her teacher could do it sitting on the table, and the different behaviors that come with that and how you have to tap into that. So I think that we also have to be careful about who the trained professionals are. I think parents are very good at it, but I think the teaching staff know the building blocks and where they're headed, and sometimes it's hard to see as a parent.
My understanding, Paul, is with Title I, we're going to do a screening process, so we're going to get a lot of good information.
I understand that when students come to us, we're going to screen them. How do we make sure the students come to us? That's my question. How do we know who these students are? Where are they? How do we know that?
A couple of spots we could start with would be the special ed department for kids that were referred to the child find process and didn't qualify for early child find. Yes. And again, some of those students are identified from the Birth to 3 program out of Racine County. So there's that possibility. We would also need to do something similar to what Dawn had mentioned before, is a child find. And so that would be publicized in the newspaper, online, that type of stuff. And
email blast.
Yeah.
Well, and to do the child find, and the first thing is saying, here's what we expect. Is your child able to do these things? And let the parents start taking a more active role in preparing your students.
Also, what are daycares around here doing? They'll have to admit, I don't know.
That would be step number 2, is after we identify the parents, would be identify the daycares and what they are doing presently. And I would be all in favor of having someone that would be in communication with the daycares to set up some type of suggested curriculum.
we can certainly do that. The tricky piece is we can make suggestions.
Since we're not footing the bill, we
Right.
can't tell them.
Right.
Well,
So-
again, this is, I think, a baby step that we have to identify before we start jumping into the full. in our schools. But I will allow the board, full board to vote on it. And I guess there's a couple of different levels here. Do we vote to provide services for the daycares that are in the district? Do we vote to have a Title I program? Do we vote to have a full K-4 program? And or we start looking at going down below that in K-3? You know, it's, and I think we start with the first step, is identify what our needs are, what our requirements are, and identify the parents whose students will be coming to us.
I agree about the accountability with that. I think, we do have to get the information continually out to parents about what we expect from them, but how do we know that they're doing it? If we have no test to know that when they're coming, except then, and when they get to kindergarten, then all of a sudden we see things starting to fall apart. But that's too late, so I worry about that accountability piece. I think it's great to get parents on board and get them information, but then how do, if they're not under a roof, how do we know what they're doing?
Well, and you're going to have the same problem if those students, if those parents don't take use of the K-4 program and they show up with K-5. So you're going to have that same problem either way. At least first part is to say, here's our needs from you as parents, and from that work to getting those needs met. And Waterford Grade School is not the only place that have people that can do education. Parents can do it, preschools can do it, other people can do education. You know what? There is a K-4 program in our village already. Right at
St. Thomas?
At St. Thomas. And if we start one, what's going to happen there? Their 4K.
You can say the same thing about their school. You still seem to be able to be amended with that. But I think when we look at the questions for the board, I think the Title I question should come to the board, and then 4K. What a model looks like for 4K, I would think that Chris and Kathy would need to get a committee together to look at all those options, if we would even go forward with that.
I don't believe that the 4K is going to run this year. That would have to be.
No, it wouldn't be, right. But we would definitely need to give them time to prepare. So those would be the two things I would see going for the board.
Well, I would like the board also to identify someone that is going to communicate with the public about what the expectations of our students are coming into the school.
Well, I would like to see us also maybe get all the daycares together and see what their 4K curriculum is now, if they have one, and maybe somehow say, we can't tell you what to do, but this is our recommendation, so they all are on the same page. So not this one is doing this one's doing that, and there's, so they're somewhat on the same page, so they know when they're coming in 5-year-olds that they know what they're going to be doing. I don't know if the daycares have all gotten together and discussed that. I don't think so.
All right, so what I have for August 19th meeting is action items related to 4K. One of the items is voting whether or not to move ahead with a Title I preschool for 4-year-olds. And then the second question is whether or not, and I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths, so feel free to jump in and modify what I'm going to say. Basically, are we moving ahead with 4K for all, and if so, what does the model look like? And then Paul's also looking for a formal dialogue at the board level regarding communication to parents and to the daycares about prerequisite skills that are needed before kids get here. And it's basically appointing a person to make those communications.
That's correct. And that would be the first thing, that question, the first thing on the list.
Okay.
So then with that information, do we hold off on the actual 4K for the greater group? I mean, if we want to get together with the daycares and hear what they're saying, is it too early for us to be taking a vote on that? Start with the title question and get that information, more of that?
That would probably be a good idea.
The biggest question is, what is the need within our district? Is there a dramatic need within our district? Will us jumping into this make a big change? I don't want to provide a report with the expectation that this is a low-cost way for parents to have their children supervised. I want to make sure that we're really looking at the students that have a need, that either the parents aren't able to fulfill that need, or the child has some special needs.
I'm looking at any of the dial scores or the kindergarten testing that's done when they come to us, show us like what that looked like of their preparation. I think the dial was I think it scores high, so I don't know if that's the best assessment.
Kathy and I talked about the TEL as a screener. So.
But I mean, for looking at our need for 4K, like how are our kindergartners coming in prepared?
Oh, I see.
You know, like I
That
think
makes
getting
sense.
more information about 4K may be
Well,
better
and-
right now.
And part of that would be, where did they go to a preschool? Did they go to a preschool? Did they, what is the effectiveness of preschool A versus preschool B versus parents teaching at home? So,
Okay.
These were, I mean, we had the numbers and where people went from Evergreen, Woodland, and Trailside, as far as where they attended and where they went, for that 4K. So we can know some of that, but we don't have these matched up to those scores and the need. So going back to the questions to the board, maybe at this time, just the title questions, so we could see if we could get that going. But hold off on the 4K question if we want more to know how our kindergartners are coming in, what we've communicated to parents about expectations and what daycares are doing now. Hold off on that question.
I don't want to oversimplify it, but I need to simplify it for myself. It seems to me that if we go with the Title I, we're going to gain a lot of information, and we can then form the committee to explore deeper the actual 4K for the following year. But as I sit here now, I guess I'm in favor of going Title I.
okay, so we'll take off the full K4 for this next meeting and then talk specifically about the other two items.
Got it.
Is there anything else we need to cover? Looking for a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Well done.
You got the next one. Yeah.
Yeah.